Hello, bookish people. I'm Allie of Extraordinarily Allie, and I'm here to talk about books. I'm so excited to be starting this channel and making some new friends who like books as much as I do. So I figured for my first video, since I'm kind of between months, that I would talk to you about all the books that I read in March, which wasn't very lengthy. I didn't have the best reading month last month, and I'm going to talk to you about the books that I am planning on reading in April, given that I have plenty of time. I'm going to set myself some lofty goals, but also given that I have 3 children, I might not reach those goals, but hey, always best to shoot high, right? So to start with, I'm going to talk to you about the books that I've already read. In the month of March, I read Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Now, I do have the original copy that I read a long time ago, but I actually listened to the audio for this, and the audio was fantastic. It was read by Eddie Redmayne, who actually played Newt Scamander in the movies, and this particular version is more updated. This one has where Ron and Harry were like writing notes back and forth, and this one is just about Newt Scamander, and he actually talks about all of the things that he's doing with MACUSA in order to make magical beasts more known about, so people are more aware of them. So this one it has sound effects, it has animal noises. If you are able to listen to the audio, it is really, really good, and I highly recommend it. I gave this one 5 stars on my Goodreads, so if you have an opportunity, definitely check this one out, or check this one out. Although, I mean, look at this cover. It's so pretty. I just love these new covers that they came out with. The next book that I read in the month of March was Scott Pilgrim and the Infinite Sadness, which is book 3 of the series. This book is really, really good. It's about Scott and Envy and kind of their past and what happens. Check out this series. This series is so good. For real, Brian Lee O'Malley has such an interesting wit, and he is so humorous, or his characters are humorous. I think that this graphic novel is really fun to read. It has really fun illustrations, in my opinion, so if you have an opportunity to check this book out, definitely do so. Read the whole series. There's 7 books. There are 7 evil exes that Scott has to face off for Ramona Flowers, the girl that he really likes. So I gave this one 5 stars on my Goodreads. I love this series. It is a reread for me. I should have mentioned that before. I have already read all of these. I'm just rereading them for fun because it's been since freshman year of college that I last read this series, so why not? They're super great. The next book that I read was a continuation of the Winnie the Pooh series. I read the first book in February, and I gave the first book a 5-star rating. This is a series by A.A. Milne. This usually comes in a little box set. You can get all 4 books, which this is just the 3 that I read in March, but this is The House at Pooh Corner. It's written by A.A. Milne about his son, Christopher Robin, and the way that he would imagine his stuffed animals and his toys in the Winnie the Pooh universe, basically, if that makes sense. So this book is all little short stories that kind of like string together. It is such a cute book. It is really great for a bedtime book if you have children. I read these stories to my children at bedtime because they're fairly short and they're really quick reads and they're really, really cute. This I gave a 5-star rating on my Goodreads. I think that A.A. Milne did an incredible job talking from a child's perspective. It's really sweet. So this is a really good book that I recommend. The next book I read was that same series, When We Were Very Young. This is a book of poetry. Now, I do think that A.A. Milne tried a little too hard to write poetry. I think that he really was good at writing Winnie the Pooh and The House at Pooh Corner and the cute little stories, but his forte was not poetry, in my opinion. I thought that this was forced a lot of the time. It seemed like he was just really pushing to have it be kind of rhymey and sing-songy. But again, this is a fun story to read, or a fun book of poetry to read to your children, if you want to do that, or if you just want a quick read. This is a very quick read. It only took me a couple hours to read the whole thing. I gave this one 4 stars because I did think that this one was decent. It is cute, but it's not the best poetry that's out there. The next book I read was Now We Are Six, also A.A. Milne. This is the last book in the series. They don't really go together. These 2 books are not about Pooh. They're not about... I think there were a couple that had Pooh Bear in them, but they're not really about Pooh and friends. This I gave 3 stars on my Goodreads, and it's fun. It's something to read. It would be a very quick read if you like poetry. I mean, check it out. Why not? These are all considered classics. Okay, so the next book I actually don't have. I listened to the audio. It is Big Kahuna by Janet Ivanovich and Peter Ivanovich. It's the last book, well, I don't know if they're going to write any more, but it is the current last book of the series. I don't know the name of that series. This story in particular was different than the first books in the series. It was as if they had not continued on with the story. There were some things that didn't make sense from where they left off in the other books. I do really enjoy this whole entire series. It is kind of a cliche action-adventure kind of story. I gave that one 4 stars on my Goodreads. I think that most people probably would not give it 4 stars because it didn't follow the storyline, and it felt a little draggy in some places, but I personally really like those characters, so for me it was a 4-star read. So I believe that's all the books that I read in the month of March. So as I said before, I didn't really have a very good reading month in the month of March, but I do have very lofty goals for April, so I will get started with that. To begin with, I do not have this book. I'm listening to the audio, but I have Crazy Rich Asians, which I started in March, and I have like less than an hour before I'm finished with that, so I'll probably be finished with that today. I really, really love that book. It is so addicting. Once you start it, you don't want to put it down because you want to know what is going to happen, and you just continuously want to be in these people's lives and knowing what's coming next because you don't really know what to expect. So I will let you know in my wrap up at the end of this month what I think about that book. Let's see. The next book that I'm working on is Little Beach Street Bakery by Jenny Colgan. I really like these books. She writes cute little fluffy, like contemporary kind of romance books. They're not focused on romance. They're focused on the main character in this particular one. Her life kind of crashes down, and she lived in the city, and she decides that she's just going to get away from all of it, and she moves off into a little country town, and she starts, she is in the process of baking a lot of baked goods right now from where I'm at. I am about 167 pages into this one. I'm going back and forth between audio and reading this, and the audio I don't recommend because the accents are not the best, in my opinion. The accents kind of take away from the story, so I'm trying to just stick to reading this one instead of listening to the audio. So, be warned. If you do check out the audio for this one, it's not the greatest. The next book I'm going to read in the month of April is Scott Pilgrim, number 4, Scott Pilgrim Gets It Together. I love this series. It's so good, and I don't remember what happens in this one, so I'm really excited. These usually take me about a day, so I'm going to knock this one out really quickly, probably tomorrow, once I finish the Crazy Rich Asians. So, read these. They're good. The next book that I already started last month, and I should have finished last month, but I did not push myself, is Electress by Brandon Sanderson. This book so far is just doing setup where I'm at. I'm only 40 pages into it, so I don't know a lot about it. I went into this one blind. I don't know anything about the story. I have heard mixed reviews about where to start if you're going to read Brandon Sanderson. This is my first Brandon Sanderson novel, although I do have like all of his books. I should say I have the majority of his books, and I am very excited to continue on with this. I'm doing a readathon where they're reading all of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere books in the month, or not the month, in the year of 2020. So I'm going to finish this one. But it is really good. I will say that I have been very into it. I like the writing, and I've heard that this was his very first book that he published, so it is kind of neat to see where he is starting if you're going to begin, begin at the beginning, I guess. Well, for me. The next book that this is a short story, but Arcanum Unbounded, also by Brandon Sanderson. These are all short stories. I'm going to read The Emperor's Soul because it follows after Electress, so I'm going to do that one after this. But this one is only like 100 pages long, so it shouldn't take me very long, hopefully, to knock it out. After that, I would like to jump into Mistborn. Now, this one I don't plan to read completely in the month of March. I'm just going to begin this book in the month of March and see how far I get. But I'm so excited about this. My best friend has told me for years to read this book, and for whatever reason, he even bought it for me for my birthday, but I have put it off and put it off and put it off, and here I am now. I'm actually going to read it, and I'm going to make him read it with me so that we can talk about it. I also started this book, Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This is the second book in the Gentleman Bastards series. I read the first one. I flew through it. I absolutely loved it. This one is just equally as good. I am, I think, 100 pages into this one. I love it so far. It's just so captivating. I love these characters. I love their chemistry. I just am very, very excited to finish this book. I also would like to read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I happen to absolutely love this cover. Look how pretty. Look how pretty it is. It's so pretty. It matches my hair. But I bought this one at Books A Million for, I think, $5. And I ended up buying a whole handful of the classics because these classics have such pretty covers. I mean, look at that. It's so pretty. The next book that I intend to read is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Again, my other best friend recommended this series to me, and she told me that it was really good, and on her recommendation, I am going to read this, and I have put it off for a little while. I've had this book for, I think, 2 years now, so I don't have any good reasons why I procrastinate reading books that I'm really excited to read, other than I don't know. But I'm hoping to at least start this one this month, if not completely finish it. I have a feeling once I get into this that I'm really going to like it and that I'm going to fly through it. I have a rough idea of what this one is about. I try to go into books blind a lot because I enjoy the suspense of not really knowing what it's about. I've heard a lot of people talk about this series and how much they like it, but I've managed to avoid any kind of spoilers up to this point, so I'm really excited to get into this one. And the last book, no, not the last book, I have 2 more. The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I've already started this, and I am 60 pages into it, so I would really like to get back into this because I love his writing style. It is so good. I love that it is based on characterization and that it doesn't necessarily have a plot right now. I've heard that it basically stays that way through the series, but I'm not 100% sure because this would be my first encounter. Again, going into it blind and having had this recommended to me a couple of times, I am excited to try and finish this. Hopefully, we'll see. I always set myself a TBR, and then I always end up venturing off of it at some point and reading something else, and that's why I end up with just like backlogged books like crazy. So, the next book I don't own. I used to, but I don't now. I actually got rid of it a while ago because I never thought that I would finish the series. But one of my friends has asked me to read Cassandra Clare with her, so I have obliged. I'm going to be getting the audiobook for City of Bone. I plan to start that probably today. I'm going to read it slowly. I'm going to listen to the audio and hopefully knock it out rather quickly. I plan to be posting videos every Friday. I hope very soon to be increasing that to 2 times a week, but for now you can definitely expect a video on Fridays. I am so happy to be starting this YouTube channel, and I'm so excited to be talking to people about books, and I'm very hopeful to be making some new book friends. So hey, leave me a comment down below, or subscribe and like and all of the things that YouTube does, you know?